Hey, we all know Frisco has plenty of pros, but it also has some cons too you should take into account before making the move. Today, I'm here to play devil's advocate. Are you sure you really want to move to Frisco? Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Pinnell and I am a realtor and a broker with OnTrack Realty. Tell you what, real estate is a big deal here in Texas, and it's a pretty big deal in our household too. We have 4 realtors in our family. Yeah, 4. And we have myself, my husband Dale, our son Blake, and our daughter Bree. Okay, when you think of OnTrack Realty, think of Pinnell, okay? Because that's us. Or better yet, think of us as your Move to Texas guide, because that's what we are. Now, we all know by now there are some fabulous things about living in Frisco. Okay, do we even need to bring them up, right? I mean, there's the excellent job opportunities, everything's new and shiny, lots of parks, paved trails, okay? We all know I could go on and on and on about this, right? But there actually really are some things that folks don't like about Frisco, and so we should probably talk about that, right? Because you need to know, okay? All right, so let's talk about that. Your first con, okay, your thumbs down about Frisco, and I think a pretty big one is it's growing super fast. If you've done any kind of research on Frisco, you found out about its fabulous reviews, and so you kind of started reading up on it. You're bound to find reviews just like I did, which, you'll find people going, they'll be kind of nostalgic and they'll be like, oh, Frisco used to be such a beautiful country town where everything was simple, and then they'll go on to say, that hometown feel is a thing of the past, right? Now, why are they saying that? Because it's growing so fast, okay? Frisco is basically like exploding in growth, okay? Some people might see that as a pro, but, I think you can definitely see some downsides to that. Okay, so just, common sense, right? If a town is exploding in growth, you're going to have to expand the roads, right? To make room for all that growth. And you're going to have a traffic problem, right? Okay, because first of all, you're going to have construction to make the roads bigger. And while you're doing that, that's going to cause more traffic. And just in general, because you're exploding in growth, you have more people on the road, okay? So definitely I can see just explosive growth as not a real great thing, okay? So what else might a quickly growing town, how else might that be, like a con? Well, a really cool thing about Frisco, and this honestly really is a great thing, is they are very, very serious about keeping, their student-teacher to ratio low, okay? And that is a great thing. But what that means is that they're constantly having to build new schools and reallocate, okay? So when you have, a city that's just exploding in growth, more and more people, they're building more schools, suddenly, your kid has gone, first through 4th grade, with her best friend, and suddenly in 5th grade, they're in different schools. For example, just because of zone changes, just because of new schools. So overall new schools, very admirable goals to keep those student-teacher ratios, low. But again, just, kind of that bummer that comes from it growing really fast, okay? So in Frisco, you're going to see new houses everywhere, a lot of construction, and traffic's not that great, okay? And this is all from that explosive growth, and just, one other thing that kind of makes me feel sad is you've got a lot of chain restaurants and chain retail coming in, and, kind of crowds out the mom and pops, okay? So it's where you had that country town, maybe you had some unique kind of mom and pop stores, that came with that, nostalgic sweet part of it. And now you're going to see more chain restaurants, chain retail, and that sort of thing. So, explosive growth. Well, it's probably a great thing, but, just realistically, there are some down things to that, okay? So that's number one, why I would say you need to keep that in mind, if you're considering Frisco, is it really is growing very, very quickly. Okay, with Frisco being such a fantastic place, I actually only have 3 kind of thumbs downers, okay? So, the first one is just that really fast exponential growth, and so the second one, you might be like, what, Wendy, what are you talking about? Okay, the second one that I see kind of as a thumbs down is housing related, okay? housing related. You might be like, wait, Wendy, the homes in Frisco are amazing. They're all shiny and new. Okay, and you're right, okay? But I do kind of, bear with me. I want you to hear some things that are potentially not great about that, okay? First of all, home values are going up, okay? They're going to go up and up and up. Housing there is going to be more and more expensive. That makes sense, right? Just because of that explosive growth like we just talked about, right? Anytime you have explosive growth, home values are going to go up, okay? So, it's already, something that your values are going to be going up because the houses are newer, right? Okay. Something else you should know about Frisco, okay, is that these are all mostly new neighborhoods, and so many, if not most, if not all, well, I'm sure it's not all, but many have HOAs, okay? The Homeowners Association, right? And what that does, well, there's some good things to HOAs, but not everybody likes HOAs, okay? So a Homeowners Association, right, you're going to have to pay for it. Okay, so you're already going to have that in your monthly payment that's going to, already your house is going to be more expensive because home values are up, right? And now you have a little bit more on your monthly payment because you have to pay your HOA, the HOA dues, right? Okay, and an HOA isn't just about, the monthly or quarterly or annual payment. Also, they're there for a reason. They're there to uphold the neighborhood, and so they're going to have a lot of restrictions. Those are going to differ by, community, by neighborhood, okay? Some are not that restrictive at all, but some can be ridiculously restrictive, okay? And so when you're buying, if you decide, hey, I'm going to buy in Frisco, you need to look into the HOA, okay? That's one of the things a good realtor is going to advise you on, okay? So let me give you an example. I had a listing in Grand Prairie several years ago, and during the course that we were under contract, and right before we closed, it was struck by lightning, and one of the crepe myrtle bushes died, okay? And it had to be removed, right? And so this is like a week before closing. And the HOA informs the owner that they can't just plant a new one, okay? So they can't bring in a baby one. It has to be like a specific size. Like I think it was like, it had to be like at least 15 feet tall or something like that. And so here we are, at closing, and we can't close because we can't find a crepe myrtle that's that tall, right? So that's just an example of how an HOA can be really, really restrictive, okay? Other things they're going to control, like, whether or not you can convert your garage, okay? Often they're going to say, you can't have any window air conditioning units, okay? They're going to control how many people, how many vehicles you can have, a lot of times in the driveway, or in the street in front of your house. They're going to control, what color you can paint the outside of your home. And again, this is all about preserving the look of the neighborhood. And so some people are absolutely going to love that, right? But others, I think, will not. Others, and when I work with my buyers, they're usually in one of two camps. Either they love the idea or they absolutely hate it. I mean, some people are like, don't even, let me look in a neighborhood with an HOA, right? So if you were going to say, I'm one of those people, I don't even want to consider a house with an HOA, right? Then we're going to go, probably Frisco is not the place for you. Just because Frisco is all about the HOA, right? All new subdivisions, and probably all are going to have that HOA. So just another kind of a thumbs down depending on your perspective, right? Because you may love the HOA. Okay, so what else do you get with new neighborhoods, okay? New subdivisions, new neighborhoods. Well, you're going to see smaller yards, okay? So a lot of the yards in Frisco are pretty small, okay? Also, another thing is you're really not going to see huge, towering, mature trees, okay? Typically, every yard is going to have a tree or two, but because it's newer, these trees are not going to be huge, okay? Now, and just so you know, there are cities all over the Metroplex that are older that you're just going to find these massive towering trees, okay? Frisco, by and large, is not that city, okay? So that's, again, why I can kind of see, it just depends, again, on what you're looking for. But if mature trees are important to you and a bigger yard is important to you, then this is a con for Frisco that you definitely need to keep in mind, okay? It's a thumbs downer, okay? All right, something else I want to tell you about housing, okay? Okay, so kind of walk with me for a little bit on this journey. I won't make it too long, but basically, the older the houses, years ago, okay, you didn't so much have a mass developer that would come in with just a few styles of homes and build that same kind over and over again, okay, right? Sometimes you'll find more what you call like a custom neighborhood where the lots sold just by lot, And, an individual would hire, like a builder, and they would go in and build whatever house they picked, okay? Also in older neighborhoods, a lot of times, maybe they just didn't have such similar floor plans, okay? So what you see a lot in Frisco is you're gonna see more like maybe of a cookie cutter approach. Like you can tell you're in the same subdivision. I mean, there are some subtle differences, but basically as you're looking through, they're basically all the same age. There are maybe there's like 5 different house types or floor plans, right? But in many ways, it's kind of has a cookie cutter feel to it. Now, many people love that, okay? They love the continuity of it. And it really, if you've got the HOA in place too, that neighborhood's just gonna be, well kept, right? Because there's all that similar veneer and quality. And then also the HOA is saying, yeah, you're gonna keep it that way. Okay, now, some people though, like more individuality. Okay, some individuals want a home that's very unique and very custom. Okay, you're not going to find that so much in Frisco. Now, let me kind of bring into one consideration that I think very few people think about. Okay, let's talk property taxes. All right. Okay, when you get your property taxes here in the state of Texas, you are allowed to protest them, okay? So if if the property tax gods say, hey, by the way, I think your house is worth $600,000, 600,000, what? No, I don't think so. You can go and you can protest them, okay? Now, if you live, like for example, in a custom neighborhood where not all the houses look the same, you've got a real good argument there, right? You can say, hey, you used that one as an example and that's nothing like mine. Mine is very different, right? In Frisco, you're going to have a much harder time doing that, okay? If you're within a subdivision, I mean, think about it again. Most of the houses are all new, okay? And most of them are built by mass developers, so they're all similar, okay? So all it takes is 1 or 2 buyers in your neighborhood, 1 or 2 new buyers to pay a really high amount, okay? And everybody's house in the entire neighborhood, everybody's property taxes are going to go up, right? And you can't argue it because they're all similar. When you go to argue your property taxes, right, you're going to say, that's not comparable to me. That's not similar. You can't raise my taxes based on what that house sold for. That's the typical argument of getting your property taxes lowered. Again, in Frisco, when all the houses are so much alike, that argument is not going to fly. Okay, so there you go. Just a few reasons, right, of why housing, even though many people love it, they love the newness of it, the shininess of it, how well it's maintained. I'm just kind of, again, playing devil's advocate, giving you a little bit extra, a little more depth to think into, before you decide if Frisco is the place for you. Okay, so here I am playing devil's advocate. I've got your con number 3, thumbs down number 3, right? Thumbs down number 3. And it has to do with like transportation, getting around, okay? Traffic, longer commute, okay? Interesting in terms of living in Frisco, if you're gonna commute to the Dallas area, pretty much there are only 2 ways you're gonna do it, and those are both tollways, okay? So you have to think about this in terms of adding to your cost of living, okay? Because pretty much those are your choices. If you've got to head down to Dallas, you're gonna have to take a tollway, okay? And so there's that cost of living. Now, if you remember when I did my video on Dallas, I don't know if you watched that one, talked about how awful those highways were and how it was just, that the North Dallas tollway was nice, but it was only one of many options. But at least there you have the option of having a lousy highway and not having to pay for the tolls, right? So in Frisco, not so much, okay? So you basically have the Dallas North Tollway and the Sam Rayburn Tollway. Okay, let's also talk about Preston Road, okay? Because the traffic on Preston Road is horrible, okay? And again, this is a road that they probably are just gonna have to make wider and wider and wider and expand it, right? But then that just compounds the traffic problem because then you've got construction issues going on, okay? So lots of stop and go in Frisco, lots of traffic lights. Preston Road is really congested. Sometimes okay, so picture you're a commuter, and we've described various towns that, you're just 5 minutes from the highway. You get up, get in your car, 5 minutes later, you're on the highway, okay? Some that come to mind is like Duncanville's great like that. Cedar Hill is just wonderful that way. There are parts of Arlington and Grand Prairie that are just wonderful, wonderful that way. With Frisco, a lot of times because Preston Road is so congested, it's gonna take you 15 minutes just to get to the tollway, okay? So let's just say you only want a 30-minute commute. You've just spent half of it just getting to the tollway, okay? So, that's definitely something to think about in terms of that traffic congestion. Preston Road, very, very crowded. You know, something to think about too is that Frisco just doesn't have any public transportation. You know, that DART doesn't go, service the Frisco area, okay? So, if you wanted to rely on that instead of fighting the traffic, that's not an option for you, okay? So just in general, definitely I think in terms of a thumbs down, traffic, the commute, having to pay for that tollway, I think those are all things that, legitimately you could say these are not these are not a great thing about Frisco. Definitely thumbs down. Okay, so there you have, 3 thumbs down. I was hard pressed to find them, okay, because we all know that Frisco is fabulous. But hopefully I've given you like a broader picture, maybe a little bit more, stuff to think about there in terms of Frisco. Okay, now listen, I want to share with you this really funny quote I read about Frisco, right? Because, I love Frisco, help a lot of people buy and sell there, and just reading up on it, found this quote. Okay, are you ready? Because this is really good. Okay, so this is what it said. It described everything in Frisco as sanitized, okay? So this was the quote. It said, there's kind of a veneer of fake fanciness that the city has, and while everything's all right, nothing feels authentic, okay? And said, like, imagine if Pinterest was a town, that would be Frisco. Okay, so yeah, I actually read that quote online, thought it was pretty funny. Alrighty, okay, so there you have it. And all the wonderful, wonderful things you're going to hear about Frisco, there are some legitimate downsides to it, right? I mean, at least 3. So tell me, what do you think, okay? Are the downsides worth a wildly popular city? Or it could be, I guess, that Frisco isn't even remotely on your radar, and that's okay too. But this much I can tell you, there are 101 suburbs in the Metroplex at least. And there is a suburb for you, okay? So tell you what, how about do this? Check out the description section of this video, and take a look at our Let's Find Home questionnaire, okay? And let us, right here, the realtors, play the matchmaker, okay? I mean, you probably already have a rough idea, right, at least, of what you like in a community, and we're the ones who can help you find it, right? And listen, if you want to get acquainted with OnTrack Realty and with us in a more personal way, read our bios and things like that, please come visit us on our website, okay? Are you ready? It's www.myontrackrealty.com. Okay, so hop on over there and say hi. Oh, and listen, speaking of hopping over, if you found this information helpful, hop on over to my channel and let's get acquainted. Now, of course, while you're there, check out all the other videos too. Hit the subscribe button and click on that little bell. Okay, there are 4 of us here all ready and waiting to help you find your place in Texas, okay? Now, in the meantime, listen, thank you so much again for watching and have a great day.